that's the wrong thing to do, this is the right thing to do. And our kids are craving stability. They're craving the structure that they're missing because you're not getting that in some of these other areas. And when our kids when they get done with these classes, or they get done with the book with the officer or the fireman or the teacher.
I do not know you, but I am your brother.
You do not know me, but I am your protector.
I will run into a burning building to save your life.
Though I do not know your name, I will take a bullet for you.
Though we've never met,
I believe in duty and sacrifice
of self.
Your family is my family.
Is my family. Your life is my duty.
What's going on, guys? Time for another episode of Behind the Uniforms. Now, the way that this usually works is that we invite officers, first responders, veterans onto the show, normally at the whiskey wall. They have to bring a bottle of whiskey to the party, and they've got to share a positive story and a difficult story. Now, the roles are changed a little bit because this guy, we're out here in Florida for this. This guy drove 8.5 hours out to us, so I decided I was going to give him a little bourbon. Of course, we went to the package store where they didn't speak a lick of English, and there was like this and Jack Daniels, and that was about it. So I'm sorry that you get lousy bourbon today.
Thank you anyways.
Can you tell them all who you are?
My name is Sergeant Frank. I run a program called Adopt a Cop USA, and it's a mentoring program for kids and with the police officers. And we started here in Palm Beach County, Broward, and Dade, and we've just expanded out to Louisiana, which is where I just came from. We went and fished in Venice, Louisiana, which is the fishing capital of the Gulf Coast, and met some tremendous people down there. Everybody is very, very supportive of the program, and they're sick and tired of being sick and tired of what's going on in our country. So it was really great for me to finally meet those people. I've been running around here in Florida, and in the last 2 weeks, we've got more accomplished than in the last 2 years. So we're really excited about our program, and it's called Adopt a Cop USA, and we're moving forward with the program and recruiting police officers. And a lot of the kids, when we go into the schools are excited because we have a program to help the kids behave better. Because if the conduct's not there, it's hard to teach them. So we started this program almost 2 years ago, and we had this program, and I wanted to call it the book camp instead of boot camp, because I thought, let's give them some stability. And boot camp's cool, and then a friend of mine said, what about a read-along instead of ride-along? I'm like, oh, that's even better.
Yeah.
So then we started the read-along program, and I was telling you about Lieutenant Dave Grossman, who wrote Sheepdogs, Our Nation's Warriors. Yep. Tremendous book, teaches kids about this, our warriors, which is our military, our police, our teachers, our servicemen, and really any adult that has the right ideals for our country. They're like, that's the wrong thing to do, this is the right thing to do. And our kids are craving stability. They're craving the structure that they're missing because you're not getting that in some of these other areas. And when our kids when they get done with these classes, or they get done with the book with the officer or the fireman or the teachers actually are saying, we can actually see a change. And I've been working with Broward School System and the head of the mentoring department, and Broward is the 6th largest school district in the country, and they're tremendous with their mentoring program. And we've partnered with them in Broward County because we understand that there's issues that are happening that most people don't see. Law enforcement are the first ones on the scene, and these kids, we want to make the first encounter with a police officer a positive thing instead of a negative thing, because that's where we lose the trust. When they walk into the school and they don't know anybody, and there's Sergeant Frank from elementary school or even preschool, they're like, at least I know one person. Yeah, he's the police. Yeah, he's the popo, but at least I know him. And they kind of look up to you. And the police officers in these neighborhoods, I can have movie stars come, and I was just talking to a Shaq's agent on the phone the other day for 2 hours, but how often is Shaq going to drive through that neighborhood? Right. These police officers patrol there day in and day, and at night, all the time, 24/7, 365. And that's the hometown hero they need to connect with, because when they see you at Walmart, they're like, I know him. He's that guy. He taught me this. He taught me that. And the kids really love that. And they tell their parents, oh, I know that police officer.
You're the friend, not the enemy.
And all of a sudden, we've changed that dynamic. We've changed the perception of law enforcement. And that's our tagline, to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the community, one child at a time. And then this weekend, we changed it from one child to one fish at a time, because now we're taking the kids out fishing.
It's awesome.
And that's something that the kids, they'll never forget that. When I was a kid, the most fondest memories I had as a child growing up was that connection I had with my older brother who passed away. He was the first person that bought me a fishing pole. My dad was out working, and my dad was a lot older than me, so we had a big generational gap, and my brother kind of filled that. He came back from Vietnam, he had PTSD, and I was like, there's something different here, but I didn't understand it because I was a kid.
Sure.
And then years later, after 25 years of law enforcement, I was like, I think I know what happened. And that's why we're working hard too. We have the mentoring program, we have a fishing program, we have an outdoor program, and we also want to help our police officers and first responders and our veterans with their PTSD issues, because it's that important. We're losing too many quality people to something that, they went out there to protect us at night. It's our turn to return that favor. So that's where we're at.
So you got to share with me some good, some tough, and I'm really this is really lousy whiskey.
Is it? Let me see how good it is.
It's not very good. We're going through the tasting
Are you
process because
sure
we're
we're
making
not-
our own whiskeys.
I think
Don't
we
know
should
if
maybe.
this against me.
This will take off the surface of this table if we pour it out.
I think it just took off my esophagus lining.
We're gonna work on that. I'm gonna do a fundraiser just for that bottle.
I'm going to be honest with you. I've got Tito's and soda over here in the background. So, all right. So
Well, I'm gonna start off with one of the things where I almost stopped being a law enforcement officer. I was a rookie officer. I was about 2 years on the job, and we're working Bravo unit, which we had 2 people in the car, which we don't normally do in Florida. It's usually a one-person car, and we're driving down the neighborhood. We're in our community, we're on patrol, and we hear this tremendous crash. I mean, at first, it was so, I almost thought it was an airplane crash. It was that loud. And we had the general idea, so we race on over there, and it's this 1960-something real metal car that versus a 1980-something not all metal car.
Oh, geez.
And the steel car was not like a scratch on it, and the other car was demolished. And I walk up to the car, and on the driver's side is this young girl, and I later found out she was 16 years old. And then there's a male on the passenger side, and I'm looking at her, and her stomach is kind of distended, So I immediately start thinking, well, how many months pregnant is this young girl? And the young man is like, well, she's not pregnant. And I was like, and it kind of stopped me. And I go back into my law enforcement mode, and we're getting fire trucks and we're getting everything taken care of. And they come, they transport her, and we're doing the report. My best friend from the police academy, he does the traffic homicide investigation. So I go to the hospital, and I'm like, I walk in the door, and he meets me as I walk in. I go, hey, how's that girl? And he goes, well, she didn't make it. Sorry. And this is like 22 years ago. I can't believe how much it affects me still to this day, but I'm sorry. And she, when he says that, and I have a young infant son, he's a toddler, and it hits you like a ton of bricks, because that's every young kid that you've ever met in your life, all of a sudden right in front of you. And I can't believe she's dead. And my mind was like, I just couldn't believe it. And I was really seriously thinking, do I want to do this for the rest of my career? Because this is horrible. And I already had a bunch of death situations in my family. I lost my oldest brother and grandmothers and parents. And I said, well, there's 2 things I can do. I can quit, or I can take this horrible event and I can use it as a catalyst to tell other kids about the dangers of making the wrong choices. So 25 years later, I made the second choice, and I taught thousands and thousands of kids in school, in elementary school, in middle school, about the effects of your choices. And I told this story, I can't tell you how many times, and I always have the exact same reaction. It really gets to me in a very deep way, because, and I did a youth program for 18 years. And I told the kids, I go, listen, if you're at a party and it's 3 o'clock in the morning and you're a ride you don't trust, this is my number. You can call me anytime. And knock on wood, nobody ever called me. but I had a few close calls, and I went above and beyond to help these kids because they're our future, you know. And you know, the other part of this story that hits me every once in a while, that young girl, her aunt worked in the bank, and the family, I ran into the aunt a little bit later, a couple of years later, and I found out the rest of the story. And the mom and dad owned a Carvel ice cream store in our city, totally closed down, and they moved out of town. That destroyed a family. And every time I saw the aunt, she used to start crying. And as a police officer, you know, that kind of messes with your head that every time you see somebody, they start crying because you remind them of a horrible, tragic event. Well, I met her the other day, and she didn't cry, and I was telling her about my new program and what we're doing with the kids, and it was a total different story. So it really took a really negative situation and changed it to a very positive situation. Her daughters are the same age as the girl who passed away. She has twins. So that's why she was so emotional about it. And you know what? Sometimes in life we got to make choices, and you know, that's the thing that we do, and we give these kids the option, say, listen, you could do this and you can do that. And I think it made a big difference in some of the kids. And I used to run into kids years later, and they'd be like, Officer Danysh, I made it. I'm like, what do you mean you made it? They go, I didn't get pregnant. I didn't get killed at the bus stop. I graduated high school. And I sit back going, gosh, you know, our perceptions of making it are somewhat different sometimes. You know, sometimes in our society, we think making it is getting on TV or making $1 million. But the real treasures are just making it through life, making the right choices.
That's
so
crazy.
So that's my most dramatic.
Now you brought me down. Now you bring us all back up.
All right. The thing coming back up is I had a young lady, and I was actually talking to her on the phone the other day. And when I ran the Police Explorer program, that's the youth program, she has 2 daughters, and she was a really small, young little lady in the Explorer program. And one day we were at the police range because we used to do gun safety, because I think it's very important. If a child picks up a gun and they have no idea, tragedy happens. If they're educated, then tragedy doesn't happen. So I used to train all my kids what to do when you find a gun, and I started that program in smaller, elementary schools all the way to my teenager program. So we're talking on the phone one day. I tell her what I'm doing, and she goes, man, Sergeant Dan, she goes, so some of those things that you taught me, because one day at the range I said, we're going to shoot a 12-gauge pump shotgun, and she's about 80 pounds wet, And in the TV, if you shoot that gun, you go flying backwards, right? So she's like, I don't want to do it. I go, you have to do it. She goes, I don't want to do it. I go, you're going to do it. She goes, okay. So she musters up her courage, and she gets up there, and I actually have my hand on her back, and she levels the gun forward, and at the range, and I mean, she's got one bullet in the chamber. It's like ultra safe. And she shoots the gun. She's like, and this smile comes up on her face, and she goes, can I do it again? So after like a box of ammo, 12-aught buck, I'm like, we have a budget here. We can't shoot all the ammo. And she goes, that kind of adversity that you made me face, when I faced adversity as an adult, I thought back of those times, and it made me stronger. And I said, oh, no, I can do this because I was already trained to do this. And I know I can do it because you told me I could do it.
That's awesome.
And it turns out that young lady, her dad was a sexual predator, because I had some officers doing sexual predator checks, and they go, hey, man, do you know that this guy lives in this house? And I was like, no. And that kid, because of her resiliency, prevented anything bad ever happening to her with that situation.
Wow, that's crazy.
So, not a lot of times in law enforcement, you can see the positive things that happen. You write somebody a ticket, who cares, right?
Right.
But when you have kids come back to you and say, man, I'm a parent now, and this is what I'm doing, and you help me, dude, that's priceless.
That's awesome.
That's priceless.
So how can people keep following the program that you're working on?
You can come to our website. It's adoptacopusa.org. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. It's Adopt a Cop. I think it says Adopt a Cop, Sergeant Frank 606 or something like that.
Look it up. You'll find it.
Yeah, you can't. You'll find me or I'll find you, one or the other. And we're just really excited because there's nobody in the country is doing this program. There's not a single police-oriented program for mentoring in the United States.
That's crazy.
And the other thing that we found out is, with our officers, because we're doing mentoring with the kids, we're doing a fishing program, we're doing an outdoor program, and then we got to the program, or the part about where police officers are actually committing suicide in our country. 108 police officers killed themselves last year. 138 died in the line of duty. I said, man, something's bad is happening here. How can we make a difference with that? Well, as we train these children, there's not one facility in the entire United States that just treats police officers for PTSD. Not one. So we have some property in Texas that we're looking at developing to bring our police officers out there. Right outside of San Antonio, there's four major colleges that deal with mental illness, and we're going to bring some of those students out there to help our veterans, our police officers, our firefighters to handle this situation, and we're going to build resiliency back in our country because Adopt a Cop USA wants to put back in the United States of America.
That's awesome.
All right.
So guys, please keep following. As you all know, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube aren't necessarily the most supportive of first responders and of veterans. So all that we ask of you is just give this video a share. Link up in the comments below. Let him know what you think of his stories. Brother,
thank you
for
very much
coming on the show.
All right.
See you guys next time.